You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted and it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. What a shocking start to this episode of Two and Out. Babyface Brazilian Ty is on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that today, you coward.
You know, I'm a coward like my old man, I guess.
But this is the exact same thing you did at the Grey Cup in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shows up with a beauty stash. Next day, gone.
Gone. Yeah, I just woke up and I just shaved it.
It's especially
Egg especially.
unsettling for me because I'm on day 2 of my caffeine cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just got an eye-watering headache, like my teeth hurt.
Oh, yeah, so the glare must just be...
Oh, but my skin hurts, but
Hey,
we're going to get through this.
You got the itches yet?
Not there yet, but...
Maybe yours isn't as bad as mine.
We're going to make it. This episode...
You know you can just take caffeine pills, right?
Oh.
If you're worried about having to go downstairs and make a coffee.
Are they expensive?
For you, probably.
Yeah, I'm cheap. I'm a cheap man, so.
Exactly.
This episode of Two and Out brought to you by the Well Endowed Podcast by the Edmonton Community Foundation. It's hosted and produced by Andrew Paul and Lisa Pruden, exploring the impact of passionate people who are working to make Edmonton a strong, vibrant city to live in. The latest episode was episode 132. Their correspondent, Scott Lilwall, finds out how an endowment fund created by the Friends of the Royal Alberta Museum Society will help support the Royal Alberta Museum far into the future. You can find out more. You can subscribe at the wellendowedpodcast.com. That is the wellendowedpodcast.com. We are in week 18 of the CFL season. I got it right off the bat for the very first time.
I mean, you suffered a stroke last week or on Sunday.
Several mini ones, micro variety of strokes. Yeah. But I made it.
Barely.
The Calgary Stampeders are on bye. And they're still in the news here. I know the CFL trade deadline was yesterday. Nothing happened, though. Nothing happened. Bo Levi Mitchell staying with the Calgary Stampeders.
Alden Darby.
Yeah, but not on the day of the deadline. I saw
TSN did not have a 9-hour special.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I saw Danny Austin with the Calgary Sun tweeting that, hey, Bo's staying put. Hopefully that last home game against Saskatchewan, when they want to keep their starters presumably healthy going into the playoffs, that Bo will get maybe a half of football or something like that and get a send-off in Calgary at the end of October.
But and you want to get something for him, obviously. Like you don't like to see guys like that walk because you feel like you can get a very good return. I don't know if you get the return now that you would have, last year, at the beginning of last year. You don't get that same return. If you're serious about making a run and serious about going up against Winnipeg to get to that Grey Cup, great insurance policy, and you let him walk, you win a Grey Cup. Best case scenario, he walks, you get the pay cut going back down to Mayor, and you can still, the trade-off is the salary cap room kind of thing, right? You're not going to get the return that you would have last year or the year before had you known Mayor was going to be your guy. So I think they have to keep him. It's an insurance policy. We've seen it before. Teams with one quarterback, it's too thin. There's just not enough there.
They have also signed Malik Henry to a 3-year contract extension that will keep him in Calgary through the 2025 season. That is a pretty big extension for the Stampeders. He's already got 1,000 yards on the season, and he's probably sending a thank you card to the Edmonton Elks this year because, man, has he ever torched the Elks.
Did he even need to play any other games to get to 1,000 yards?
Yeah, at the same time, the Elks are saying, oh, no.
Yeah.
We have to play this guy every Labor Day again. But it's clear he's now become... Well, Reggie Bagleton's still there, let's be clear, and he's still getting the bulk of the targets, and he's still a trustworthy target for Jake Maier.
Can never have too many weapons.
Yeah, and 25-year-old Malik Henry looks like he's going to be the centerpiece of that receiving core going forward and long term. Yeah,
and I mean, like you mentioned the age, that's, you're just getting into your prime. In sports, it seems like sports are getting way younger now. You don't see the 35, 36, 37-year-old scoring 50, 60 goals in the NHL unless it's Alexander Ovechkin and he's going to win me money doing that. In football, like your career, it's such a crapshoot. It could be one game. It could be 15 years. You can lock this guy up now. He's healthy. He's been healthy. You get probably his best 3 years going forward for sure. And like I said, you can never have too many weapons on offense. It's just another option Jake Maier is going to have. And I think, with them letting Bo walk, salary cap relief that way just means that they can add pieces around that young starter.
The Stamps do have the likes of Kadeem Carey, Sean McEwen, Julian Good-Jones, Ryan Skeevier, Trey Roberson, Derek Wiggin, Mike Rose locked up through the end of next year at least.
And we've barely talked about Calgary this year, it feels like. It's been Winnipeg and me making fun of Hamilton.
Well, Calgary's losses really just came against Winnipeg and BC, right?
Yeah.
So...
But I mean, they're just quietly winning games, just going about their business.
What happened last year too, even.
Yeah, there's that little, we'll call it a quarterback controversy. We kind of knew Maier was going to be not thrust into that starting spot, but he was going to get that job at some point, I think, because they want to get him reps. There was no way they were going to re-sign Bo unless he was going to take a huge discount to stay. It just kind of just went along exactly how we all expected it to, and nothing really deviated from that plan.
I mean, they're in the playoffs for...
Not saying it wasn't newsworthy. It was just what everybody expected. And so it was just like, yeah, they did this, move on.
17 consecutive years in the playoffs. Tickets on sale for the CFL Awards. We're about 6 weeks away from the Grey Cup in Regina. Last year, the CFL Awards in Hamilton were free. You had to apply for them and hope you won. This year, $175. It's a premium event, Grey Cup week. And... Grey Cup week, they'll be, announcing the CFL All-Stars, or at least going into the playoffs.
Are they announcing the halftime show at the award show?
I don't know when they're going to do that, man.
Or are we just having a normal halftime this year?
Hey, if they put some bubble soccer on the field for the Grey Cup, I'd be happy. You can vote for CFL All-Stars now. Did you put in a ballot?
I haven't yet.
You can vote 3 times.
Yeah, I hate fan voting for All-Stars. I think it's stupid.
I was going to say, who's the John Scott of the CFL?
It becomes a popularity contest. I don't know.
I don't know. Can you get a long snapper in on special teams? I don't know.
Would it be Grimes? Somebody not any good that's just going to get votes for some stupid reason.
So my ballot was Nathan Rourke. I mean, it's between him and Kolaris, and I'm not going to fault anyone for going either way. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Farhan Lalji saying it's a slightly better than a 50-50 chance Rourke gets in still this year, which I think is remarkable.
Now, if you're BC and you can't catch Calgary, like let's say Calgary takes second, worst case scenario, they're going to be third. They're going to Calgary for that West semi. Do you even bother putting Rourke in? Or are you just looking at it for reps and maybe get him out of there after a quarter?
Well, I think Calgary needs to worry about catching BC, don't they?
No, but I mean, like if it comes down to BC, like that game has the last game of the season means nothing. Are you throwing Rourke in there on the possibility that he gets hurt again?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, I threw him in there. Geno Lewis as my receiver.
Ooh.
Kadeem Carey is my running back. I put Derek Dennis as my offensive lineman.
Friend of the show, we kind of have to.
Yeah.
and it's not even that. He's that good. Yeah. It is the pick. There's only a handful of linemen that, you can really pick.
Yeah. Hey, and the old line in Calgary has been solid. I mean, it's a reason why Kadeem Carey has the success he has.
I don't think Josiah St. John's getting on anybody's ballot this year.
My defense, I put Lorenzo Malden from Ottawa, Darnell Sankey. Although there's a lot of good linebackers I could have went with. Mwamba, Thurman, there's a lot of good
Simone.
ones. Yeah, Big Hill. Jamal Peters from Toronto, the Argonauts, was my DB. And my special teams, Mario Alford, Richie Leone, and Sean White. There are no Bombers on my all-star team, so I might have to fit in another.
It's bold.
I might have to fit in another ballot there just to cover my bases. It is Thanksgiving weekend. And Friday Night Football is Tim Hortons Field. And this is kind of a playoff game for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, where they
and the Riders
2-point favorites over the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. The over-under set at 49. It is a must-win for the Riders.
I don't like that 49 number. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah. Where are you leaning there?
Man, like the under, but that 49 is so low.
Yeah, it is. It is. Man, Saskatchewan 6-9, Ticats 4-10, and of course with the crossover rule, you can't just tie. You can't just. Doesn't matter who wins the season series. It's just based on points. So if the Ticats win 5-10 against the 6-10 Riders, with their last two games coming against the Calgary Stampeders, and the Ticats having one against the Stamps and one against and two against the RedBlacks. So this is a pivotal game Friday night in Hamilton.
This reminds me of the 2012 Colorado Rockies. Won like 17 of their last 18 games.
Oh.
Just to get in, and then got swept in the World Series.
Right.
By the Red Sox. But, you're playing so many, like they call them playoff games, but they're games you have to win, and you played so many of them, you know what you have to do in those games. That's what this is for the Riders. That's what it is for the Ticats. Somebody has to win. Well, no, they can tie. But, I have zero faith in either one of these teams. Like, we've seen Dane come out and be an absolute world beater 2 weeks ago.
I know.
And then last week was like, what the hell was that? Or the game after that was, what the hell was that? The Riders are the biggest frauds I've ever seen. This is Sam Gagner 2012 all over again for the Oilers. Like, it's an absolute fraud of a season.
Now, the positive part about Dane Evans' game against Montreal. So he lights up Winnipeg, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Plays Montreal, and he still had a 75% completion percentage, 288 yards, and he didn't turn the ball over. So that is different from earlier in the season where the turnovers were just out of control.
Turnovers are out of control. The completions weren't there. There seemed to be no, he wasn't in sync with anybody within that offense, which seemed weird considering it was a full camp.
Yeah,
He'd been
for
through
sure.
2 seasons, as the kind of like the 1A to Jeremiah Masoli, where they were kind of splitting. It just seemed something was off. I don't know what it is, if he had a nagging injury or something, but then he puts that game together against Winnipeg, and everyone's like, whoa, here we go. And then the next week, he doesn't turn the ball over, but I mean, it's like, where'd that go?
Yeah, they didn't get it done. Tim White still had 105 yards, and Wes Hills had 6 yards a carry. Only had 10 of them, though, and a touchdown. But, I mean, Montreal's won 5 out of their last 6. So they're playing tough football as well coming here down the stretch. So what are we going to get? The Riders... I mean, it was a tough month, and we knew it going in, playing that stretch against BC, the stretch against, they lost the game against Edmonton, and all those games against Winnipeg. How do they go into Hamilton, a tough place to play, and just play a better game? It doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't. But losing those top two running backs on the depth chart has not been good. And last week, Cody didn't get sacked. They were able to limit Winnipeg's defensive line. Cooper Richardson limiting Willie Jefferson. And then you got Dan Clark back in there. Are they going to be able to limit Hamilton and keep him upright without much of a reliable running game? All the respect to Keenan LaFrance and Shaq Cooper, who looks like we'll see who's going to get the bulk of the carries this week. But if one of them
they're
goes,
not Jamal Morrow or Frankie Hickson.
Yeah. And last week when LaFrance gets hurt and they're giving the ball to 89, Kean Schaefer-Baker. Schaefer-Baker's a great playmaker, but from the backfield, it's just it's not his position. So they can't have that.
And that brings in not only the coaching staff, because like we talk about how much everybody hates Jason Moss. Finally, people are getting it. Maybe Dickinson isn't the head coach that this team needs. Just, the discipline problems, the off-field stuff, all that other stuff. Where's the organizational depth that the GM is responsible for? How are Keenan LaFrance and Shaq Cooper your only two options when those two guys go down?
Yeah, it's been tough. I mean, when Morrow and Hickson go down, one of the best back tandems in the league. They're right up there, I think.
But you can't. But nobody in
their
their right mind expects Keenan LaFrance to come in and even do 50% of that.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's 3rd and 1, you gotta
might as well just punt.
You gotta be able to convert those. Hamilton's not going to be easy to.
If Tom Brady can do it, if Tom Brady can do it at 400 years old, there's no reason that a running back with a full head of steam shouldn't be able to get it.
Well, I mean, when you hand the ball back 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, when you need
be better.
That's details.
Yeah, semantics.
As for Hamilton, Tim White, I mean, I don't know if he's getting enough love this year. 5 touchdowns, 3 100-yard games in his last 6. He needs 17 to reach 1,000, and he's going to cost you on CFL Fantasy. He is almost $11,000, but the most targeted receiver in the CFL. I mean, with the Riders giving up at least 1 or 2 big plays a game.
The Riders are Nick Marshall.
And with
or Mike Adam.
Their ability lately to be able to pressure the quarterback, maybe there's going to be a pretty big game here for Tim White.
I don't know right now who you put on him in that secondary. You're going to throw the ball to him, let's say 12 times. How many of those routes and how many of those chances is Nick Marshall just going to completely whiff on it? He might get 1 pick. Great. The other 11 are going to be completions.
Well, earlier in the year, the Rider defense was able to pressure the quarterback, and I think that was big to their success. And it's just not there. It's not happening. And if they're not going to be able to do it here, Tim White's going to be all over the place. And I'm interested to see what the Ticats are going to be doing at running back here. I've become a pretty big fan of Wes Hills. He is a big back, and he runs over players. He's 6'1", 218 pounds. He does.
Ooh, that's what I weigh. I'm 5'8". Like short round.
He's only got into 2 games. Or 3, sorry, but against Edmonton, he had 8 carries, 40 yards, 5 yards a carry. Against Winnipeg, 10 carries, 5.8 yards a carry. And then against Montreal, 6.1 yards a carry. And the Riders gave up 100 to Brady Oliveira last week. I know that the Ticats have not been committing to the run, it seems like, since we started this show back in 2015. So it feels tough for me to want to rely on a running back, but that guy's a bruiser, and I feel like they really need to utilize him.
And the way this Rider defense is right now, it just feels like the run game and the passing game or like pass defense and run defense are both weaknesses right now. Like, just seems like nothing's going right. If they show flashes, I get that. But, I mean, this is a team right now that you can run on. They're not going to pressure. They can't pressure. If they do send pressure, it opens up holes. Like, it's been a nightmare. What is Hamilton committed? When you say committing to the run for Hamilton, is that going to be 18, 19, 20 carries, or is that 10?
It might be 10 by
right, because that's what it feels
standards.
like some nights, is that 10 is, we had a big night on the ground.
Yeah.
But I mean, they utilize their backs coming out of the backfield in the passing game
They do.
too, which a lot more than other teams, it feels like anyway, just because they don't run as much. So you kind of got to look at it as a whole. Like, if you're going to, there's a difference between a pass blitz and a run blitz. If you're going to run blitz, try to shut down that run, well, they're going to be able to leak out, right? Like, you can't just pick one, especially in this league. So in the way the Riders defense has been going, do you rush 3 and have Sankey in them kind of try to plug holes if they do run? And if they don't run, then they're in zone. Like, it just creates so many issues.
I am looking at the practice report here for this game. Deontay Evans practiced in full this week. He's questionable. Simone Lawrence practiced in full this week. He has been ruled out. Good to see him practicing in full, though. Returning from that knee injury, maybe he does.
So Fajardo should make it through the whole game.
Poppy White has not practiced. He is out. And Stephen Dunbar Jr. is doubtful. They're saying it's not football related. So maybe that would be even more targets for Tim White, because Stephen Dunbar is quite the deep threat. Mario Alford practiced in full on Wednesday for Saskatchewan. He's questionable. Charbel DeBeer is questionable. Samuel Emelis, Jake Hardy out. Man, Keenan LaFrance hasn't practiced. He's out. Anthony Lanier, he's out. Darnell Sankey, he's questionable, and Jamal Morrow has been ruled out. It does look like it's going to be Shaq Cooper carrying the ball for the Riders. We've seen in the past he can be a threat in the passing game. He can be a threat on the ground. I think he got into some fumble issues as his career went along a little bit. So he hasn't been in the offense this year yet. Could be a cheap option. We'll see what he'll do. But the injuries are mounting for the Riders as well. We do have a Saturday Thanksgiving weekend doubleheader starting in Toronto, where the Argos.
What time does that doubleheader start?
I think it's the exact same time as the Jays game. So poor Argos.
Joke's on you guys. I have 2 TVs.
Actually, yeah. The Argo game starts at the same time as the Blue Jays Mariners game 2 of the Wild Card
Which I'm
series.
sure will be down 1-0 because the bullpen's going to piss it away.
The over-under set at 48.5 for this one. I think this is a big game for both quarterbacks. McLeod Bethel-Thompson had a rough one against Calgary last week. Now, it wasn't just him. I think the entire offense was out of sync. He's gone, I think it's 6 straight games with an interception. But now Vernon Adams Jr. also wants to see some consistency here too. He had a great game against Ottawa. So-so game against Calgary. Yeah, a so-so game against Calgary the week before. So what are we going to get from these two teams? Both secondaries and both defenses can be very hard on opposing offenses. This is an interesting game because, both teams fighting for playoff positioning. Lions want to host the West Semi. Argos want to host the East Final. It's a big one Saturday in the Big Smoke.
I hate that so much. It's not smoke, it's smog. The one thing, though, is BC's traveling across country. So I mean, the time zones, they do make a difference. And we've seen it this year with teams playing the late game in BC, and it's not even a game. Like your clock is all screwed up. That being said, like you mentioned, the defense is how much faith does Toronto? Well, I mean, I don't think faith is the right word, but McLeod Bethel-Thompson's just been so inconsistent this year that, this game could be 25-23 win on a last-second field goal. It could be BC winning by 20.
Well, now the Bo Levi Mitchell watch is on in Toronto. It's on.
That's
in
exactly
Saskatchewan.
what McLeod wants, right? Like,
yeah, I know.
He's not okay. I've mentioned the Riders getting Bo before. I'm joking. There's no chance. His wife doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Like, nobody wants to go to Regina.
If they get
Hamilton,
Bo,
it's Hamilton West.
They've got a pile of receivers that Bo's familiar with.
Yeah, that's very true.
So we'll see what happens there. Last in the league rushing on first down are the Toronto Argonauts. So
that checks out.
The loss earlier this year of Andrew Harris has been big to them. Although AJ Ouellette, he's been a pretty good fantasy producer just because they throw him the ball a lot.
Yeah. But the price is going up.
Yeah, he's creeping up. He's over $7,000 now.
It's a creeper.
So you definitely want some, production out of him if you're gonna put him into the lineup there. So he's got almost 300 receiving yards on the season. I'm looking at last week he had 6 targets, the week before 5 targets and a touchdown, and the week before 4 targets, 26 yards. So they're throwing him the ball and he's getting about 9-10 yards, 9-10 carries a game on the ground. Last week against Calgary, 7.3 yards a carry. I think you can run on BC. So I would like to see them try to get that going and help out their offense in McLeod Bethel Thompson with AJ Ouellette, mostly because I'm just a fan of the way that guy runs with that beautiful, beautiful mullet.
I mean, is there anything better? I mean, this is a game Toronto needs.
Oh, yeah.
They want to pull away and host that East Final and get it secured before, they have to win their last game of the season or something like that. You grind this team, keep that offense off the field, run it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, handoffs. It can be those swing passes that are basically an extension of the running game, which Ouellette has been getting. They want it. This isn't a game they have to win, but it's a game that they want for sure. I mean, you want to win every game, but it's getting to that time of year where this is not the time you want to start slipping because you don't want teams catching you.
Some Argonaut news. Long snapper Jake Reinhardt has retired. He has been with the team since 2014, the longest tenured Toronto Argonaut, 117 regular season games. The Grey Cup in 2017. And now he's off. So good for him. He's joining the fire department in Guelph. Maxime Latour is taking over at long snapper. And I think that's one of the beauty things about the CFL. We respect the long snapper,
It's a very important position that never gets talked about.
It is. What an unheralded job. The unsung hero of the special teams. I can't think of a time when a special, like a long snapper, has sucked. And I guess that's why they stay on teams for so long. Just the consistency and being able to do it. And he came back from that brutal elbow injury last year and I was able to get back onto the field. So that was good to see. The Lions, some off the field news. Steven Stove Richardson working his way back from that Achilles injury. The soonest he can practice is coming up in about 2 weeks, but he's in BC. And if they can add that big presence up the middle for the playoffs, that'll be a big addition to that defense, Ty.
And you add Matthew Betts, or not add, but you add him to that group with Matthew Betts. The DBs have been real good, forcing turnovers, playing or pass deflections. If you're that kind of scares teams away from running a little bit, maybe makes them change their game plan. And you don't have to send the house after guys. You can send 3, 4 and drop guys back into coverage. It kind of just changes a lot of things that they can do and changes what other teams want to do.
John Bowman coaching that defensive line. I think
couldn't think of anybody better.
He knows a thing or two about defense. Now, if you look at the injury reports for the Toronto Argonauts, they are missing some key pieces going to this game, especially on defense. Wynton McManus hasn't practiced this week. He left last week's game with the knee injury. Shane Ray also hasn't practiced, bicep injury on the defensive line. Deshaun Amos hasn't practiced. And then Davaris Daniels hasn't practiced as well. These Argos are banged up going into this one. And hey,
they've
DeMonte
been banged
Coxey
up all
too.
year, though, too.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it shows the depth that they have, right? And them, Calgary, like Winnipeg, it feels like whenever there's an injury, it doesn't seem to be that big of a loss. Guys are able to, it's not so much plug and play, but they're able to, minimize the damage, so to speak, at that position. And yeah, those are like Wynton McManus, those are big names off that defense. And it kind of opens, if those guys can't play, it kind of opens the door for Vernon Adams to do some stuff.
Yeah, it does. And I think James Butler, maybe they want to get him rolling in Toronto too. One thing to watch for that Lions offense, Lucky Whitehead had the ankle rolled up on last week. He came back into the game visibly limping while running his routes. I mean,
probably still faster than me.
Respect to him for getting back out there, but hasn't practiced this week. Will he play on Saturday? We're going to find out about that soon. Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 13-point favorites over the Edmonton Elks. The over-under at 50.5. I think the Elks really could cover, man. I know they just beat Saskatchewan by 18.
Yeah.
It is Saskatchewan. Edmonton just beat Saskatchewan. Look, in Edmonton, untimely turnovers as well, allowing a 100-yard interception return last week against Montreal at home, setting the CFL record for most consecutive home losses. But they're on the road.
That's got to be a pro sports record.
Yeah, that is not good. That is horrible. So, but Winnipeg's got something to play for here. A Winnipeg win combined with a BC loss clinches the West final at home in Winnipeg. But the Elks going into this one without their top receiver, Kenny the King Lawler, has season-ending surgery, collarbone injury last week on that big catch. What a catch and a great season for him. Rough way to end it. We'll see if he's back in Edmonton next year. But when he missed the last few games, Edmonton really was looking towards Dylan Mitchell and Darrell Walker. Walker had a couple consecutive 100-yard games, and with a banged-up secondary for the Bombers, probably going to be looking his way again Saturday afternoon.
Well, and that's not the only thing. Cornelius is a very mobile guy, as we've seen.
Yeah.
So, if with those holes in the secondary, you kind of work in reverse a little bit where, you have that weaker secondary, you can throw a lot and you can set the run up and the quarterback designed runs and draws off of that instead of, using the run to set everything up. So that just opens up another option for Edmonton. I mean, not having Kenny the King, Lawler, not great. I mean, they weren't doing anything with him anyway, like, playoff wise. But I mean, Darrell Walker's able to put up some numbers. Dylan Mitchell gets looks. So I mean, it's an 18-game training camp. It's just a part of it.
As for the Bombers, though, you mentioned earlier, they have acquired defensive back Alden Darby Jr. in the trade with the Ticats. The Bombers acquired Darby in a trade with the Argos last year when it appeared that he lost the job in Toronto.
Just the new Sean Lemon.
Ends up starting 11 games for the Bombers, wins the Grey Cup, has a great season, and then in Hamilton, he just they weren't getting him on the field. So he knows the system in Winnipeg. They've got a bunch of injuries in the secondary. He'll be able to slot right in and make an impact right away there. So that's a good acquisition for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But Zach Collaros, He's poised to be the first player to win back-to-back MOP since Anthony Calvillo did it in 08-09. Leads the league with 30 touchdown passes. Edmonton's given up the most passing touchdowns this season. I picked Collaros last week. He had 4 touchdowns on the Riders. He's getting more and more expensive. And I mean, Nick Dembski, I think you're in tough. Is Nathan Rourke, did he play enough games to win most outstanding Canadian? Or is he a lock? I don't know what voters are going to do there. Nick Dembski had 6 touchdowns in September. Yeah. What a season he's having. And if he was on the season or the roster the entire year, man, it's between Dembski and Rourke for the West, I think, and probably Curly Gittins in the East. Yeah. But did Rourke play enough games? I mean, of course, he was Superman when he was on the field. I'm interested to see what voters are going to do there.
Well, I think with Dembski being around right now, the recency bias, I think will have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Mine would be Dembski just because, I mean, yes, quarterbacks need the receivers to be able to put up those yards, but the quarterback is going to get those yards somewhere. For the receivers to make those plays is something that you don't see that often.
No,
this volume.
He got into 11 games this season. He's got 613 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Yeah. If he plays the rest of the season, he's probably, I don't think he'll get to 1,000.
No.
But his career high in receiving yards was last year, 654. He's going to beat that. That's for sure. He's also rushed the ball 16 times for 127 yards, just under 8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Nick Dembski, a great player in that Winnipeg offense. And I was thinking about it. I think since the departure of Paul LaPolice, the Bomber offense has been more fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Buck Pierce has been he's been
the
great.
ideas he gets because his brain's been rattled so many times. Like nobody else is going to think of those. And they work. They work.
They do work.
Like I've come up with some real bad ideas.
No, if I look at the did not practice list for the Bombers, it's pretty. It's almost an all-star team right there because Drew Wolotarski, Stanley Bryant, Jackson Jeffcoat haven't practiced. And 3 DBs, Nick Taylor, Noah Hallett, Malcolm Thompson. So that Alden Darby trade really is big to that defense. Now, looking at Edmonton, other than Kenny Lawler, it looks like they're doing okay. Ed Gainey limited at practice. Kai Loxley back practicing in full. I think maybe the game changer in this game is Jake Serezna, who has been an absolute monster for the Elks. And I just look at the way that Montreal was able to pressure Collaros earlier this season. It looks like Serezna can single-handedly blow up offensive lines. If he's able to put pressure on Collaros, the Elks are going to give the Bombers some fits here, I think.
And, I mean, how many times have we seen and talked about even just this Winnipeg offensive line? It's very rare that we see Collaros, on his ass unless, it's after the whistle or something like that. But, it just leads, like, you got to build that offensive line, leads to way more success. This team has kept him upright, kept him healthy. We always thought he was one hit away.
I know. We thought his arm was done.
Wow. And then, that game against Montreal, it's like, okay, so there is holes in this team. And like we've said it before this year, this team is the most beatable they've ever been in the last 2-3 years. Like it's ridiculous. But there is ways to get to Collaros and get pressure in there. Teams have to find out a way. Now, having Jake Ceresna do, 90% of the bulk of the work to do that and open up other opportunities, or being able to single-handedly blow stuff up, that could be a huge piece in this game.
6 sacks, 3 forced fumbles in Jake Ceresna's last 4 games. So he has been he's been playing some great ball for the Edmonton Elks. Okay, Thanksgiving Monday, Montreal Alouettes, 6.5-point favorites over the Ottawa RedBlacks. The over-under set at 47.5. The Als win. It's simple. They guarantee a home playoff game. The poutine helmet is back in Montreal. I don't know if you can bring your own turkey to put it in there too, because a turkey, I'm thinking cheese curds, stuffing, turkey, gravy. There's my Thanksgiving poutine. Somebody make it happen. I'm sure you can do some cranberry drizzle on there as well. But
I don't like any of that.
I don't understand how you can like stuffing, though. It's
Not
like butter and bread.
It's not for me.
What? Butter and bread's not for you? I somehow doubt it.
No, I've had stuffing. I'm not a fan.
I don't know. Well, I get you a better recipe or something. I don't want to insult anybody, but
you just insulted our number 1 fan, so good for you. You deal with that when she listens to this in 2 months, and I got to deal with it at Christmas. Thanks, thank you, Travis.
You'll be able to participate in Montreal in their pregame tailgate the second time this season. This is cool.
Opposed to a tailgate during the game?
You can bring your own food and cook it on one of the grills that they've got set up for you. So, yeah, man, I got to get to Montreal. This grilled pizza pops actually does sound good. It does sound good.
I'll try it on the Traeger.
Hey.
I'll let you know.
Okay. Do it. Do it.
Do it.
The Ottawa RedBlacks have added Quan Bray to the practice roster.
That's a name we haven't heard in a long time.
In 2019, he had 818 yards and 6 touchdowns with the Alouettes. He did get into some legal trouble, but he did have some great seasons, productive seasons in his first couple of years with the Alouettes. So we'll see if that turns into anything for Ottawa. I do think the big game plan for them here has to be getting the ball into Devontae Williams' hands early and often. He's 25 years old and he's got 5 yards a carry on the season. If I look at the last game against BC, he had 12 for 59 against Toronto, 9 for 47, and the game before that against Toronto, 14 for 80. But he's also adding catches as well, so he's become a value member of fantasy rosters there. 14 catches in his last 3 games. Does not yet have a touchdown in the Canadian Football League. I think this is the week that Ottawa better try to get him one.
It's given the ball. I mean, it's been a pretty big bright spot in your last couple weeks.
Yeah, it has been.
Your season is not gone the way everybody thought or hoped. You fired your coach. This is the week to have that dead cat bounce with Bob Dice in there. Give him the ball. Figure it out.
Yeah, it's as simple as that for the Ottawa RedBlacks, and that's it. Just getting some offensive consistency going. It's kind of puzzling sometimes when it doesn't seem like they're getting the ball to Jalen Acklin, their leading receiver. It's just get the ball into the playmakers' hands. I don't know if they're going to continue to get Devontae Dedmon involved in the offense, but they've got talent there.
They're not Dino Ciccarelli. Doesn't need to be 2 feet from the net to score. Doesn't need to have they need to have the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. As for the Montreal Alouettes, now we don't have injury reports because it's a Monday game. We could be seeing William Stanback onto the field for the first time since week 1. And look, they've won 5 out of their last 6. They've been switching between Walter Fletcher and Jeshurun Antwi. It's worked. It has done well for them so far, but Stanback is a game changer. They get him into there. It'll probably take a while for him to shake off some rust, but
that would be my next question. Like, what is Stanback going to look like? Are they going to be spelling him out? Is he going to be getting the bulk of the carries? Like, is his conditioning up and like, is it at where it needs to be? There's so many questions. Like, I'm sure they're not going to put him in and get him hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that he's going to be completely healthy. But it's what William Stanback are we going to get in that first, maybe half of football? I just don't see it being vintage William Stanback. I see him having to work into that, kind of getting used to getting hit again and getting his breath and maybe having to spell out for either Antwi or Fletcher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's all about Geno Lewis and the Alouettes, and it's all about Trevor Harris managing the game. As long as they're not taking or making turnovers, the Als they'll
apple
do okay.
Or cherry or
you'd eat a cherry turnover?
No, I wouldn't eat any. It's fruit. It's not a thing I'm going to do.
But Geno Lewis is the guy. He's I think one of the it goes without saying, he's on my all-star ballot. Geno Lewis.
And if we know anything about this podcast, so that it's the be all end all of how good guys are. Like we get it right all the time.
Have I got anything wrong? I've got a lot wrong.
Less than me.
But last week, Geno led the team with 52 yards receiving. That, of course, was against Edmonton. It was not a pretty game for the Alouettes offense.
Edmonton isn't involved in a lot of those.
Even though Trevor Harris had 82% completion percentage, it was just not a pretty one at all. And Ottawa seems to be able to stay in games because of their defense. We'll see if Nick Arbuckle will be able to produce early on and to keep this a game. But Thanksgiving football is back in Montreal, and it'll be fun to watch that way. It seems like the players like Bob Dice, and that'll be something to see here if they're going to be able to play for their interim head coach going forward.
I just wonder if, we talk about it in every professional sport. Like, I don't think that he necessarily lost the room. Like, so to speak, like guys didn't like him. I just think they just needed a new voice.
Well, also, I think it's the double duty.
Yeah, it's really hard to focus, like to split time between coaching, and then you still got to, like, you're in the middle of a game, and are you fully invested in that, or are you thinking about moves that you could possibly make after the game? You got to go make a phone call, right? What? Like, you got to go make a phone call to another GM.
Yeah,
you got to ask the questions because we talk about it. GMs aren't doing their job if they're not calling every other GM at least, once, twice a month. You have to see what's out there. You have to, leave those discussions open. And when you're pulling double duty, that's a big ask.
And I wonder if we're going to see that changing in the CFL. I know there's the coaches cap. So a lot of times if you are having the opportunity to bring somebody in that can then be a coordinator and a head coach, maybe teams will jump on that opportunity. But the teams that were struggling this year the most were the teams that had their coaches pulling double, or in Edmonton's case, triple, quadruple duty.
But I don't think you were getting Chris Jones without giving him full autonomy.
That's true. And, in Edmonton's case, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt until next year.
Yeah.
And even as the season has gone on here, there's been some new players getting into the lineup that have been making impacts for that roster. So there you go, man. What's your fantasy roster looking like for Week 18, the CFL Podcast Fantasy League? We made it in to the quarterfinals. We'll see if we can keep going here. You've got Andrew of the Turf District, and I've got Ryan from Canadian Football Countdown.
If I know anything about being an 8 seed, you just got to get in.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm pretty sure Andrew will take a dive for me.
So you're going to guilt him into this. Okay.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. I'm sick. I got gallbladder issues. And I was in the dentist for an hour today and lost a pint of blood. Quarterback, Vernon Adams. Running back, Kevin Brown and James Butler. Nick Dembski, Javon Katoy, Brendan O'Leary, Orange in at my flex, and the Bombers defense. I got $55 left over.
All right, I'm going to have to change my lineup. I got $8 left here. Dane Evans is my quarterback. AJ Ouellette, Kevin Brown is my running backs. Tim White, Justin Hardy, DeMonte Coxie, and the Als defense. Coxie is hurt, probably not going to be playing for the Argos, but Justin Hardy got in last week. $2,500. That's why I got him in there. That's why I'm able to afford a Tim White, but he had 5 catches and 94 yards against the BC Lions. If he's doing that for $2,500,
take it.
Getting another 7 targets, I would be happy with that. This episode of 2 and Out is brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Even if you're a busy business owner with more meetings than hours in a day, you're calm and collected when your group benefit plan is taken care of by Alberta Blue Cross. Your employees can manage their own health, dental, life, and disability coverage online anytime and on any device, making it easier for them and for you. To learn more and explore your options, head to ab.bluecross.ca. Ty, who are winning the games this week? Whoa. Okay, Riders, Ticats, I could see going either way. Yeah. Right now I have the Riders, you've got the Cats.
Yeah, I have no faith in either team. I'm just going to take the home team. Argos and Bombers and RedBlacks on the road.
RedBlacks on the road. The new offense.
Dead cat bounce, baby.
Bob Dice leading his team.
Yep.
Wow. I haven't seen Gary Stern if he's guaranteed a win for this one yet, but if the guarantee comes down, all in on the Alouettes.
Let's be honest. I changed from the Als to the RedBlacks while we were doing that.
I know. I see that. This is awesome. That's week 18 coming up in the CFL season. On Tuesday, after the Thanksgiving weekend, Justin Renfro will be joining the show. Grey Cup champion with the Stampeders in 2018. Spent time with the Edmonton Elks this year, and he's got that cooking series. You can check it out on Instagram, the JR Network, called What's Cooking JR. Man, goes to all these great restaurants. So if I'm being honest, the conversation is 99% about food. That's
Which I wouldn't have really been able to contribute.
I know. So while you're enjoying your Thanksgiving leftovers, we'll be talking about food, Justin Renfro and myself, Tuesday after Thanksgiving. A very happy Thanksgiving to you. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Tune Out on your favorite podcatcher. Like and subscribe, comment on YouTube as well. Brazilian Ty will be on the road. This Thanksgiving, I will be in Jasper National Park this Thanksgiving. So we'll see you out there, and we'll talk to you next week with more 2 and Out CFL podcast.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.